Structure and function. The relationship between structure and function is an important overarching concept in biology, and studying this relationship will help us to understand animals. Structure, which is anatomy, and function, which is physiology, are studied together because function is determined by structure. For example, the long bill of the sword-billed hummingbird makes it particularly suited for extracting nectar from flowers with deep hypanthium, which is the nectar chamber. So the long bill is the anatomy, and extracting nectar is the physiology. Structure and function. The adaptations that different animals have to allow them to perform various functions have all been fashioned by natural selection. Natural selection has fitted structure to function by selecting, over many generations, variations that allow populations to reproduce in their environments. Which elephant adaptations make it suited for its environment? Structure and function. Elephants are suited to their environment. Ears with large surface area allow efficient heat dissipation. That's why elephants flap their ears. They have blood vessels in their ears, which carry a lot of heat, and then the heat dissipates from the ears and cools them down. The tusks are used as tools or for protection, and the trunk is used for breathing, grasping, and lifting. Levels of organization. Structure in living things is organized in a series of hierarchical levels. Tissues make up organs make up organ systems, and organ systems make up an organism. Levels of organization. A tissue is a group of cells that work together to perform a certain function. For example, cardiac tissue consists of muscle cells that work together to contract. An organ is two or more tissues that work together to perform a specific task. For example, the heart consists of cardiac tissue and it pumps blood throughout the circulatory system. An organ system consists of multiple organs that function together to perform a vital body function. The circulatory system transports nutrients and waste throughout the body, and an organism consists of all the organ systems functioning together as an integrated unit. For example, a human consists of multiple organ systems and is a fully functioning living organism. Tissues. In this course, we will study tissues, organs, organ systems found in the animal kingdom. Plants and produce have other types of tissues and organs. In animals, there are 4 types of tissues. They include connective tissue, epithelial tissue, muscle tissue, and nervous tissue. Epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue consists of many cells tightly packed together with very little extracellular matrix. It covers body surfaces and lines internal organs and body cavities. One side of the tissue is anchored to the underlying tissues by a basement membrane. That is a dense layer of extracellular matrix consisting of fibrous proteins and polysaccharides. The other side is the free surface, and it faces the outside of an organ or the inside of a tube or passageway. In this diagram, the apical surface, that is the free side. So in the case of skin, that would be the side of the skin that's facing the air. And each of these cells has a nucleus, and there is a basement membrane that anchors that epithelial tissue to tissues underneath it, some other kind of connective tissue. Epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissues are named according to the number of cell layers that they have and to the shapes of the cells on the free surface. A simple epithelial tissue is a single layer of cells. Stratified epithelial tissue are multiple layers of cells. Squamous are flat cells, cuboidal are cube-shaped, and columnar are taller than they are wide. Epithelial tissue. The structure of each type of epithelial tissue fits its function. Simple squamous epithelium is very thin and is suitable for exchange of materials via diffusion. It makes up capillaries and alveoli, which are the air sacs in the lungs. Stratified squamous epithelium can be found in areas subject to abrasion, such as the esophagus or our skin. Connective tissue. Connective tissue is the opposite of epithelial tissue in that it contains few cells and a lot of extracellular matrix. The extracellular matrix includes certain fibers and other chemicals that are secreted by the cells. There are 6 major types of connective tissue. They include cartilage, bone, adipose or fat, blood, loose connective, and fibrous connective tissue. Connective tissue. Loose connective tissue binds epithelia to underlying tissues and holds organs in place. It is located in the skin and throughout the body. Fibrous connective tissue is really tough. It attaches muscles to bones and connects bones at joints. They include tendons and ligaments. Bone is a hard tissue, hard mineralized, that gives structure. It is located in the skeleton. Blood is the only connective tissue with a liquid extracellular matrix. Its functions include defense from the white blood cells, carries oxygen by the red blood cells, and clotting, which is done by the platelets. Blood is found in all the blood vessels. Cartilage is strong but gives flexible support. It's in various locations in the nose, ears, and between vertebrae. Adipose tissue stores fat for fuel and insulation, and it has various locations throughout the body. Muscle tissue. Muscle tissue consists of bundles of long cells called muscle fibers. With the exception of nerve cells, these are some of the longest cells in the body. Some of them will run the length of an entire muscle. So the sartorius muscle in the thigh is almost 2 feet long. Muscle fibers within that muscle may be about that long as well. There are many contractile proteins arranged in a certain way within the cytoplasm of the muscle cells. Vertebrates have 3 types of muscle tissue: skeletal, smooth, and cardiac. A little point of trivia here: muscle is named after the mouse, mus musculus. Skeletal muscle tissue. Skeletal muscle tissue gets its name because it is attached to the bones by tendons and is responsible for voluntary movement. Under the microscope, cells appear to be striped or striated due to the arrangement of the contractile units. Therefore, it is also called striated muscle. So under the microscope, you see these little black bands. Those are the striations. Smooth muscle tissue. Found in hollow organs and blood vessels. It is smooth due to the lack of striations. It is an involuntary muscle controlled by your autonomic nervous system. That means you do not have to think about your stomach digesting food or your heart beating. Cardiac muscle tissue. It forms the contractile tissue of the heart. It is striated, but the cells are branched, not straight as in skeletal muscle. Like smooth muscle, it is involuntary. So you do not have to consciously think about contracting your heart in order to pump blood through your body. It has specialized junctions known as intercalated discs between cells that rapidly conduct the signal to contract from cell to cell. This is important because all the muscle cells in the heart have to contract in a coordinated effort, kind of like the rowers on a row team. If the heart does not do this, it cannot pump blood, and in that case the heart would be in a state of fibrillation. This is what defibrillators are used for, to stop the heart and allow the pacemaker of the heart to take over and allow these cells to begin contracting in unison again. Types of muscle tissue. So in summary, the types of muscle tissue cells include smooth muscle cells, which have 1 nucleus per cell. They are spindle-shaped, and they have no striations. They are arranged in a circular pattern within the walls of blood vessels and hollow digestive organs. Skeletal muscle cells are cylindrical-shaped, multinucleated, and have striations. Cardiac muscle cells are also cylindrical-shaped, striated, multinucleated, but they are more branched than the skeletal muscle cells are. Nervous tissue. Nervous tissue is specialized to sense and respond to stimuli, both internal and external, by conducting electrical impulses. The structural and functional unit of nervous tissue is the cell called the neuron, or nerve cell. Nervous tissue. Neurons receive information in the dendrites and transmit that information via the axon. Tissues. To summarize, the 4 types of tissues are epithelial, connective, muscle, and nervous. Epithelial tissue is made of many cells that are tightly packed together with very little extracellular matrix. The function of epithelial tissue is to cover body surfaces and line internal organs and body cavities, which makes sense because these cells are tightly packed together for that function. In connective tissue, there are few cells with a lot of extracellular matrix. The function of connective tissue is to hold tissues and organs in place, and the specific function of the connective tissue depends on the type of extracellular matrix that it has. For instance, ligaments have a very tough, fibrous extracellular matrix. Muscle tissue contains cells with filaments of contractile protein. This enables body movement. And nervous tissue, which is made of nerve cells or neurons, receives, processes, and transmits information via nerve impulses. Identifying types of cells. Erythrocytes, or red blood cells, transport oxygen. Leukocytes, or white blood cells, are for defense and immunity. Platelets are involved in blood clotting. Identifying types of cells. Palisade cells are a type of cell in the leaf of plant cells. Contained within the mesophyll, they contain high concentrations of chloroplasts and are a primary site for photosynthesis. Identifying types of cells. Root hairs are tiny, unicellular, hair-like outgrowth present on the outer surface of plant roots. The shapes of these cells allow for more surface area and maximum absorption of nutrients from the soil. Identifying types of cells. Guard cells are pairs of epidermal cells that control gas diffusion by regulating the opening and closure of stomatal pores. Like the way a flower blooms, these cells have vacuoles that fill up with water and make them turgid, so they're swollen and therefore able to open and close.